What's Your Work Fit is sponsored by Hudson Davis. Start your brand's marketing and communications journey today at hudsondaviscommunications.com. I'm Dan Smolin. I built a successful executive career in marketing and communications before becoming a top headhunter and founding my own executive search firm. Now get this, every day, mainstream media runs stories in which old school bosses and thought leaders frame your work and workplace issues in ways that are often divisive and unmeaningful. And that's just crazy. The time has come for you to answer the question, what's your work fit? So that your work and career fit who you are, how you want to live, and what you want your lasting contributions to be. What's your work fit? It answers your questions and tackles the issues that keep you up at night about advancing your career in this time of workplace revolution. So let's get started. Hey, good day, everyone. Dan Smolin here from What's Your Work Fit. I hope you're having a good and successful week. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us live today on this show. Your participation, your engagement, your following us, your being part of this experience means the world to me. What we are trying to do is help people like you to make the work that you do a wonderful part of the day doing other wonderful things. That's a work fit. And so much of that is well beyond the confines of the venue in which we work. It's the conditions of work. It's how you're able to create a blended day. I don't like using the term balance. Nothing's 50-50. But a blended day where you can live intentionally, go out and do something, and then get back to work and crush it. That's what work is about now. That's what we're about. This community is very, very important, and we are always looking to scale it. So on that note, if you haven't done so already, please engage with What's Your Work Fit on the platform of your choice. Most of you are going to find us on LinkedIn. We're also on Facebook Live, and we all are also on the What's Your Work Fit YouTube channel, which is growing. Thank you. And one more thing, and this is really easy. If you like what you see, if you like the experience, tell 5 friends to subscribe to What's Your Work Fit on the platform of their choice. Little by little, this is how we're going to build a movement. And this is how we're going to help create positive outcomes for people who currently wake up at 2 a.m. in a cold sweat wondering, is this all there is? So thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are what makes What's Your Work Fit tick. Okay. Without further ado, I am so happy to introduce our guest today. He is Jeff Wolliner. Hey, Jeff. Oh, God, he's got a hat.
Of course he's got a hat.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about my brother, Jeff. Not really my brother from another mother. He is a comedian by trade who turned his craft into a company called Winning Wit, which provides speech writing and corporate event leadership services. He's also the author of a really, truly wonderful book called The Path to Perfectia, and he's going to talk a little bit about that. He's also an executive producer and host of his own live show on LinkedIn. And this is really cool. I found this on your LinkedIn profile. Jeff says, to describe his superpower, I turn contracted, painful energy into joyful, expansive energy. Well, that's good work if you can find it, Jeff.
Don't start spreading ugly rumors about me. Come on, man. We just kicked this thing off. What are we doing?
What are we doing? We're solving the world's most vexing issues today. Now let's get right to it. I don't mean to I don't mean to make light of it, but you're a comedian.
I mean to make light of it. So if you don't want to do it, I'll step in and do it. One of us will make light of it today. Hopefully both of us.
Very good. Okay, so let's get to it. Our question this week was posed by Annika. Hi, Annika. Annika is a senior member of her leadership team, And she says that she entered the workforce years ago during a particularly bad recession. Out of college, it took her several months to connect with her first job and, get this, many years to pay off her student loans, like a lot of people. Things were never easy for Annika, yet she learned to persevere through even inflationary and recessionary cycles, coming through each of them stronger and more resilient. Annika has on her team several late millennial and Gen Z members who seem unsettled by the stress in their work and daily lives, and she laments some of them are carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. One more point. She wants to help her younger teammates to reframe their experiences so that they succeed through their difficult challenges and circumstances so that they face that they face in their careers. But first, Annika asks you, Jeff, are things really so bad? Huh.
Yes. Sorry, hate to break the bad news.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
We're done here. That's it. You didn't need to show up for this. You could just keep doom scrolling and just keep it rolling.
Oh my gosh.
You know, it's the most incredible thing, Dan, that we live objectively in the greatest time in human history. And on the daily, we're being fed the idea that we're living in the worst.
No shit, Sherlock.
And we do it with an absolute straight face and unironically, which to me is frankly hilarious, but we do it unironically.
Okay. So the greatest time, AI generated this image. By the way, anything that I put up generated by AI that I've rendered myself, I'm going to be forthright and tell you that this is what I've done. This is not a real picture. But to the fine folks at Microsoft who project manage Copilot, way to go on creating two forlorn Gen Zers sitting on a stoop on a brownstone stoop in Brooklyn. And this is what it rendered.
Can I just say excellent use of the word forlorn? I did not have that on the bingo card today, but I'm happy about it. I'm a better man for it, and I appreciate you.
I put this up, and I was at 2:00 in the morning playing with Copilot, laughing at what it rendered in 90 seconds or less. And yet, I hear from a lot of people my daughter's age and slightly older who have known nothing, Jeff, but threat response their entire lives. We have a comment in the thread that really talks to this. It is so hard for younger people to roll with the stuff that happens in a daily experience because in some respects, they've known nothing but threat response since they were born. I mean, my daughter was born a few weeks before 9/11. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, they haven't experienced a lot of really bad things. When I got into the job market, people who might have been a little older than me who were buying their starter homes were happy if they could get a fixed rate 30-year mortgage at 15% APR. It's about a third of that now, well, maybe a little higher. But young folks have never experienced inflation. Maybe they have certainly had a lot of job hopping. But what's really so bad?
The perception.
Okay, talk about that.
So we talk about young people and the anxiety they have. And, it's the old meme, mommy needs wine and the millennial anxiety. And by the way, I'm just saying, I'm not here to disparage the mommies who need wine. Sometimes I've seen your kids. I get it. I do. I understand it. But real talk here. I mean, can we not be honest on this show? But yeah, fundamentally, you have this thing in front of you 24/7. And the younger you are, the more it's in front of your face. And every single time you scroll, you are being given a dopamine hit of fear every single time from everybody. This could be from people on the religious side talking about this apocalyptic this or apocalyptic that, or I channeled some alien named Bob Saget who told me that the volcano was coming, or If it's on the secular side,
Wait,
someone's talking
wait
about,
a minute. Bob Saget was an alien?
we can't talk about that on the show. I shouldn't have mentioned that. Now they're coming after me.
Okay.
So it's been real, folks. I love you all. We've had a great time together, haven't we? But this is what's ultimately coming down the pike. Every single time we're scrolling, we're getting a hit of there's doom here and there's doom here and there's doom here, and it's constantly being fed to us by all the algorithms. And the more we hang around to watch the doom, the more the algorithm learns, hey, we love this stuff, don't we? And we get more. We get more and we get more. So if you're fed doom 24 hours a day, of course you're going to think things have never been worse. And of course you're going to be in fight or flight. Of course your limbic system is going to be absolutely haywire, and you're going to be geared toward that. But is it actually true? I don't know. Let's talk about it.
Well, let's talk about fight or flight, the autonomic nervous system, or what my friend Dr. Charles Glassman calls the automatic brain, which is how am I going to respond if suddenly I see a saber-toothed tiger? Am I going to fight it? No. Am I going to fly from it? Yes. Those are the things that are fueled by adrenaline. And like oxygen, too much of it and we get too high, not enough and we're going to die.
Absolutely.
Adrenaline can create heart disease, strokes. And I worry about this cohort coming up because, like you said, they don't know how to unpair themselves from that device you were holding in your hands moments ago.
Absolutely. And good news doesn't sell, and good news doesn't get clicks, and good news doesn't get eyeballs, and good news does not train the algorithm to stay with you. So if we actually disconnect somebody from their daily feed, they'll realize the world isn't nearly as dire as you think it is. And if we just look today, now we could unpack literally every single issue, and everything people are freaking out about is better today than it ever has been. I mean, quite literally everything.
Okay, I agree with you, but give us an example of what you think is better.
All right, fine. Let's start with what you're talking about. Let's start with the economy. Let's start with jobs. There has never been a better time in human history, not only for people in the Western world, but people the world over, to start a business that aligns with their interests, their passions, and their knowledge. Never. Quite literally never. We are in the greatest time in human history, an unprecedented, I swore I would never use that word after 2020, but we are in an unprecedented time, which gives us an opportunity to take that which we are, the essence of who we are, which we love, what we can put into motion and create a business from it. When has that opportunity been around the way it is today? Never. And yet it only increases as time goes on. It's only getting better. It's only getting more expansive. We're only getting more connected as time goes on. You look at all the economic doom and gloom that people have been banning about the last couple of years. This recession that was supposed to happen 3 years ago, we're still waiting on it now.
Right.
Where is it? It's nowhere to be found. The job market is strong. Despite the doom and gloom from different sectors and the very prominent layoffs in a couple of industries, overall, job market's still strong. Inflation has stabilized. The Fed's actually talking about cutting rates this year. So where's the panic and where's the doom? I'm looking for it. I can't find it.
Well, there's something about the things that we see. You know, I'm old enough to remember when 50 years ago, the price of gasoline tripled. And that was our new normal. And people freaked out. And so did Detroit by having to, reimagine what cars were about. And currently, I mean, I've walked through Wegmans enough to see people freaking out about the price of eggs being north of $5. I remember when they were $8.50 just 18 months ago.
Yep.
But we're not conditioned necessarily to say, okay, where is that in the scheme of year over year inflation?
We're really not. And, we really get hyper focused on if one thing goes off the rails, the way it's framed is that the thing has permanently gone off the rails.
Right.
And it can't come back. So we have to focus on this problem now that has no solution. And we've been taught this learned helplessness, and not just in economics, but fundamentally in everything. And again, it's fed to us by the algorithm. And I know I keep picking on it. And by doing that, someone's listening. I know you're listening to me. I know you're listening. And I would say nothing personal, but it's very personal. They just keep feeding us this stuff, and it just keeps creating this narrative that builds on itself. We look at other things that people are freaking out about all the time. We look at wars. Now, there's a couple of very prominent wars happening in the world right now.
Yes,
but if you look at each region, you look at that historically compared to where it was. You look at the one war in the Middle East, everybody's focusing right now. That is the least bloody war in that region alone in the last decade. And yet we have a hyper focus on it. And we have this idea that this is the worst war humanity's ever seen. Same thing in Eastern Europe. You look at what's happening in Ukraine. Everybody has this hyper fixation on what's happening in Ukraine. And I'm not downplaying, to be clear, I'm not downplaying the human cost of any of these wars. One war is too many, one lost life is too many. But historically, holistically, compared to what we saw in Europe over the past 100 years alone,
right,
this is a bar fight. And yet we're focused on it as if it's an apocalyptic undertaking. So I think perspective is really important to walk us back from the ledge. It
is a bar fight, but it's one played out with laser guided missiles. And yes. So that again is a cortisol stimulating visual. Although, the battle for Leningrad or Stalingrad rather was probably one of the bloodiest in the 20th century. And yet we don't have that sense of it because maybe there's a few newsreel photos, but the wars that we have now seem much more apoplectic because they're being played out on TikTok.
And that's it. And I think you nailed it.
Well, let me add one thing: without context, without contextualism, we don't know what we're looking at. It's horrible, but we don't know what we're looking at. And that I want to get to the don't know what we're looking at. So I doubt everything about it. I want to get to that in a bit, but I want to get to Corey first. Corey is about my daughter's age, and he says, my mom was in labor with me on 9/11. Growing up, I had a through line of crises and threat responses like school lockdown drills. Oh gosh, you didn't have a kid in school, Jeff. My daughter used to come home panicked. Gen Z especially has experienced the world in angst mode. How do we get through that? How do you tell somebody, maybe it's good that Facebook went down for 20 hours a couple of weeks ago?
That's the hard thing, right? Because, and Corey, I feel you. I do. And so none of this is to minimize what anybody's experiencing and going through right now. This is fundamentally about perspective. And that's the one word I think it's important to keep coming back to is perspective. So whenever you think things are as bad now as they could possibly be, just crack open a history book. And nobody reads books anymore, except for this one, buy it at a fine Amazon retailer near you. I would say, look into what we've actually been through. So, okay, here's a great example. We look at what we're going through right now in the early 2020s as some kind of an apocalyptic, nightmarish, cataclysmic thing. Mm-hmm. Let's rewind time 100 years ago. All right, let's go back to the late 19 teens. We were engulfed in World War I, which was, we talk about cataclysms. World War I was magnitudes worse than every conflict in the world today put together by leaps and bounds. We were enduring the Spanish flu.
Right.
And I don't have to tell anybody here. Actually, I have to tell everybody here because nobody talks about it. The Spanish flu killed anywhere between 50 to 100 million people, depending on who you talk to. We just came through a pox of our own. And this is not to minimize one single family who suffered from COVID. And this, again, this is just perspective. COVID was absolutely nothing compared to the Spanish flu. Nothing compared to what the havoc that, and guess what? All of that in the late 19 teens, it yielded to the roaring 20s. It yielded to a decade of prosperity and peace and happiness.
And craziness.
Until that point. Yeah. And obviously.
Let's
do it again. It was fun.
Everybody was getting jiggy with it. He came out of World War I where people were deformed by mustard gas.
Yep.
And we didn't really have a frame to deal with that. It was so horrific. And as you said, the Spanish flu, we never learned those lessons. And yet this thing that we went through 4 years ago this week, people really thought these were the end times. And they weren't. And think about the good that came out of that craziness, right? Jeff, we've talked about this. We discovered We don't have to all be huddled in a co-location miles from where we live that involves us to pay out of pocket thousands of dollars every year to travel to and from, to expend oftentimes 20 hours a week unproductively just commuting. We've learned that work can be the part of a day in which we do other things. We can break it up. We don't have to be slave to a clock anymore. The venue isn't so much important as our connection to one another. We're trying to figure that out now. And it hastened the arrival of AI. AI, which, okay, yeah, it's going to create a lot of deep fakes and that's going to get a lot of headlines. But here's another thing. AI, and I heard an interview by Jensen Huang last night from NVIDIA. AI is going to revolutionize healthcare. We are going to learn through AI how to treat individuals based on their individual DNA needs. That's astonishing, right?
We're coming into a world that, I would say within the next 10 years, that will look at cancer the way we currently look at bronchitis. And that will be because of AI.
Okay, wait a minute. We're gonna look at healthcare through AI the way we've.
Well, we're gonna look at in 10 years' time, and I can't wait to play this back 10 years from now.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna look at cancer in 10 years the way we look at bronchitis today.
Wow, it's astonishing.
No doubt in my mind.
I mean, think about that. And I've lost family members to cancer. My late father-in-law had pancreatic cancer. That was untreatable when he was diagnosed. I'm ever hopeful that AI gets us closer to earlier diagnoses and treatments and prescriptive treatments that are for that particular patient alone. I mean, we're seeing some of that with lung cancer treatment now, but imagine where we're going to be in 5 years' time.
It's the rate of acceleration because of AI. And you think about, now let's talk about that, because I think this is an important topic when we think about the doom and gloom paradigm.
Yeah.
There is so much focus on everything new that's coming out about what, horrendous thing it's going to bring to the ether. And yet we never talk about, here's one thing, everybody watching, if you have these doom and gloom moments, if you have a lot of anxiety, doom scrolling, I want you to think about this for the world and for yourself. Ask yourself this question. What if the best case scenario happened?
Right.
What if? Because you're always thinking about the worst case, and we're wired for that. Again, you taught saber-tooth tiger, all that stuff. But yeah, what if the best case scenario, what would the world look like if in 10 years, hell, in 5 years, cancer was just a nuisance that was no longer a threat to anybody's life? What if the best thing happened to you professionally within the next 5 years? What would that look like? What would your life look like? Picture it, think about it, feel it, live it, immerse in it. And you'll realize it's just as possible as the worst thing you're worried about all the time.
I get teased for my tagline, our best days lie ahead, but I wouldn't put it out there if I didn't believe it. I really think they are. And yeah, there's a lot of problems with every new technology that comes to the fore. The introduction of the smartphone into my household made parenting very difficult. My daughter wanted a phone when she was 12. And I just didn't think that was a great idea. And yet it has improved all of our lives, just like AI is, if we do this right, if we're intentional about it, it will get us there too. I want to get to a few more. Actually, before I get to a few more comments, I want to get to some more illustrations. So why do we go to bad places, Jeff? Yes, I put in 2 forlorn Gen Z and a forlorn clown sitting on a bench staring off into the abyss. This is what it came up with.
Well, first of all, what program is this? I need it. I'm going to use it every single day. I'm going to fall down the rabbit hole. I will get nothing else done, and I'm good with it. I'm here for it. Let's do it.
I swear this has released all the dopamine in 7th grade me, because I get to play out my most absurd ideas. Okay, but seriously, what?
Mm.
And we are sourcing Pew Research and very well mined on these bullet points here. Why do we go to bad places? First and foremost, and you've talked about this a lot, is we are pre-wired for a negativity bias, right? And you've said, and you just said this momentarily, the bad stuff generates more clicks. But here's one that I talk about a lot, and that is how our personal success, especially in career, is often defined by others. Sometimes our peers, but more often than not, our hiring managers and the people above them. You want to look a certain way, you want to act a certain way, you want to live your life through painful sports metaphors where you leave everything on the field. Okay. The last point is one I know that you and I have talked about, which is we don't believe much of what we see because there are pictures, there are videos of Donald Trump, AI Donald Trump talking about his prison experience. That didn't happen, folks.
It didn't.
But
Him and I had some moments in San Quentin. So
yeah,
if you want to spread this fake news that it didn't happen, that's fine. You're entitled. I'm not going to get you canceled. But let me tell you, I was there.
well, yeah,
there,
bribing your fellow skells with Chesterfield cigarettes is
We were throwing
not
a hole together. That was an experience.
Right.
But it was the most tremendous hole you've ever seen. As you were.
Well, yeah, Jeff and Jen Pop. That's going to be a future episode coming up here on What's Your Work Fit.
Oh, yeah.
But we don't believe much of what we see. And this is a big part of why things really feel so bad. They may not be, but if how you pick up your information about the world is through TikTok, you're screwed, my friend. And I want to take this to one more level, Jeff, because this is the one that everybody understands. Money, debt. We are buried in $17.5 trillion of consumer debt. And look at the breakouts. This is per capita. This is per capita. $13,000. If you're a young Gen Zer, this is your debt load right now in college. A little older, getting into late millennials, it's near 27,000. Late Gen Xers, it's 28,000. That's mostly student debt. Yeah. And so again, we've been sold on this notion, you got to go to the top school, you got to get the degree. And I know people that are never, ever going to use that degree, and yet they're going to be paying a lot of money to pay off that debt for probably a long time. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and I don't know how to speak to my viewers and listeners who feel that, other than to say, you're not alone. And I know you're not going to like hearing this, but a lot of people have gone through worse. You know, it's it's a matter of perspective.
Like everything else, I'd say the one word I think would really help people right now if they're worrying about this kind of stuff. And I get it because, I was buried in student debt for a long time, is fluidity. There is fluidity not only to macroeconomic situations, there's fluidity to your microeconomic situations.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there saying you cannot turn your financial situation around dramatically and in a very short amount of time. This is a very common phenomenon. This happens all over the world. So people often get caught in this idea of, this is my economic station, I'm going to stay here, I'm here forever. But there's fluidity within your station. There's fluidity on macroeconomic scales. I mean, my God, look at Argentina. They seesaw more than me after a few shots of tequila. I mean, it's a boom, 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 boom here. But, they go from extremely wealthy nation to poor nation, to wealthy nation to poor nation. And this is what happens with large debt loads for grand macro economies, but also for micro economies. So understand nothing is fixed. So anxiety is based on this idea that this bad thing is fixed and unchangeable and unmovable. And that's just not so.
And I'm obsessed with control over it, as opposed to let that shit flow.
Let it flow, baby. Let it flow. The universe will take you out of it. Let's get woo-woo, man. The universe will take you where you need to go if you
Let's get woo-woo. I'll pick up on Helena's point, and it echoes what we've been talking about. It's not easy as saying, just ignore what's happening in the world while you're at work, but The right culture, purpose, and stimulation should also provide a welcome distraction and respite. And I think about some of my friends who work in the NGO space, some of them here in DC, some of them up in New York, and they're dealing with existential crisis as part of the mission of their nonprofit organization. And that's hard. You know, you're working at Doctors Without Borders. How do you get home at night and fall asleep? I don't know how you do that. You're dealing with a lot of awfulness.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you talk to somebody who's like, I'm doing this work because I want to make the world a better place? And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's oftentimes at the cost of your mental health and well-being. So how do you craft a day where, you know, you put that tiger back in the cage for as long as you can and try your best to deflect from it and take in a beautiful day? Go on a walk with your dog. Meet your besties for a Broadway show or for a picnic or something like that. What are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
I think we need a dramatic reframing, frankly. And I think a lot of our misery and angst comes from the idea that we have to distract ourselves from it,
Mm-hmm.
because it never, you know, distracting yourself from something that's bothering you or giving you angst or existential anxiety, whatever it is, it's kind of like running from the Terminator. Yeah, you can get your shotgun out, you blast it a couple of times, it'll slow it down, and then maybe you hide out in a hotel for a night, but it's still coming. It's still coming, and it will continue to chase you forever. The only way out is through. And I know that's an old cliche, but you have to sit with the thing that's giving you anxiety. You have to sit with the thing that's giving you sleepless nights, and you have to pat it on the head and say, it's okay. Accept you, accept it as is, and I'm not running anymore.
Is that why Darren Smolin likes to watch apocalyptic content on Netflix? The Walking Dead and all that stuff. She wants to deal with it head on so it doesn't keep her up at 2:00 in the morning.
I think that's the other way of it. So I think there's three ways of doing it. One is you run away from it. The other is that, which is kind of the polar opposite of it, which is you amplify it to try to defang it. So you say, I'm going to go with the absolute worst thing that can happen. That's totally unreasonable, but I'm going to dig into that. Therefore, when the actual thing that I'm afraid of happens, maybe it won't feel so bad. And then there's that kind of middle way, you know, that classic Buddhist middle way, which is you acknowledge it, you sit with it. You, once again, you pat it on its head and you say, it's okay that you are what you are, and it is what it is, and I am what I am. And this idea of radical acceptance. So let's look at this from a broad view here.
Yeah.
Let's think about a roller coaster, a really scary one. Now, you'd say, you know, who in their right mind would want to get on a really scary roller coaster? And you say, well, anybody who wants an adventure. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you get on this roller coaster, you're really excited, you're strapped in, like, let's rock and roll. You get up there, and during the first dip, and I'm talking the first really steep one, you're holding on that bar and you are screaming at the top of your lungs. And as you're screaming, there's a part of you that's thinking, why did I get on this roller coaster?
Exactly.
And yet you did it. Now think about that in terms of life. Think about yourself as a fractal of the divine intelligence, source consciousness, Detroit, whatever word you want to use for it, it's fine. And you come into this body, into this mission, into this adventure, whatever you want to call it, this experience. And in this experience, you're going to have a lot of harrowing things happen to you. You're going to get sick. People are going to die. You're going to go through tragedies. You're going to suffer through wars, pandemics, all these different things are going to happen. And while it's happening, you're going to have this moment of, what the hell did I sign up for? This is insane. This is crazy. This is too much. I can't handle it. I have to get away from it. Give me a bottle of wine. Give me this. Give me Xanax. Give me a movie. Give me something. What if I told you got on this roller coaster to experience that specifically, because you can't experience it outside the roller coaster? Would that change the way you look at it?
I would hope so. We have this thing where, and it's so unfortunate that a lot of people who are in their early 20s grew up with basically bubble wrap around them. They weren't allowed to fall. They weren't allowed to fail. And they never learned that it's okay to fall and go boom. So that when they reached middle school, if they were high achievers, and Marcia, my wife, sees this in the gifted ed program she runs, if they don't out excel themselves, they feel like failures. What have we done to our children, folks? This is crazy. Failure is perhaps the most beautiful thing that we have, because nothing teaches us better to recalibrate, to pivot than our own failures. And I'm not talking about like back in the day when I was in the ad agency business and we would test control and test scenarios on a marketing campaign and look at what failed in either of them and learn from it. I'm talking about the people I talked to who endured a 35-year marriage and then suddenly they can't get Peggy Lee out of their head singing, "Is That All There Is?" But that's powerful learning right there. And it happens throughout our entire lives. And we can't walk away from it, right?
We have to incorporate it, and we have to look at it as part of the process, as a feature, not a bug. And I think that's part of it too. I think we have a generational divide here where, you know, if you're a boomer or you're a Gen Xer or probably even an older millennial, you grew up understanding that life's going to be hard and things are going to be hard and people are going to be mean and shit's going to happen. And that's baked into the cake and you get it. Somewhere along the way, we lost that. And we got into this utopianism where like nothing bad should ever happen, ever. And if it does, that means the whole system is broken.
Yeah, well, you know, I live in the DC area in 2002. You know, we had the Beltway sniper. That scared the shit out of me more than 9/11 ever did. And it's because I dealt with it directly with a young child. And they were showing up at my highway exit, shooting people. So that's real. And unfortunately, we responded to that not with clarity, but with more bubble wrap.
Yeah.
To the point where our children really didn't know necessarily how to adapt. You know, when I was 4 years old, Jeff, I learned how to ski. And I fell a lot. And I had some spectacular crashes, and yet I got up laughing. And it was the most wonderful thing that my parents ever did for me to get me on skis when I didn't know better, right? Had I got on skis when maybe my threat response was more heightened as I got older, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. Probably wouldn't have been as good at it as I was, because I started when I was a joyful 4-year-old, and the feeling of the cold wind on my face and the snow beneath my skis was just bliss, right?
Just bliss.
I want to get to Randy's comment. She says, each person brings more to the workplace than their professional self. Amen, sister. With so much heaviness in the world today, that can be bad for some. So be gentle. Are we being gentle with our peers, with our cohort?
No, we are not. And one of the main thematic undercurrents of the book, The Path to Perfectia, that I wrote last year was, you know, how do we show up for each other in the moments when we can't go on, when we have nothing left to give, when life has beaten us to our knees? Now, right. You can talk about it esoterically. You know, we came here to ride the roller coaster and have the experiences and go through all this stuff. Yeah, that's all true. But when you're going through it, it's hell. It doesn't make it less hellish because you maybe on a soul level chose to do it. And not everybody believes that, and that's fine. But you're going through it either way. So if you think you're here by some accident and you're going through it, you're going through it. If you think your soul came here for a mission to choose it and you're going through it, you're going through it. Either way, you're going through it. And when you're in the middle of it, it's hell. And there's just no other way to look at it. It's hell, but how you deal with that hell and how others show up for you will inform tremendously how you get through it. So if you have people who are gentle with you, if you have people who show you compassion, if you have people who show kindness, and if you do that for others who are going through their own moments of intense contrast, that's where you're going to see all the magic. That's where you're going to see all the sparks light up. That's where the beauty in this game is to be found. You know, the diamonds are found deep in the mine. They're not found at the surface. They're found deep in there.
I want to get to Stu's question. So Interestingly enough, Stu grew up with a father who was a Shriner clown. So my man is no stranger to comedy, but he asks, having seen big successes and abject failures and attempts at using humor in corporate settings, what insights can you provide to a comms professional who is advocating for using humor when senior management is reluctant to do so? Oh man, that's a good question. What do you think, Jeff?
That's a great question. So I would bring this back to a bowling metaphor. Know where your gutters are and know where your lane is. So
Okay.
every single organization and culture is different. Some have a very wide lane. You could throw the ball way out there and it'll stay on the lane. Some have a very narrow lane where if you just go a little bit here, you're in the gutter, which means you're getting called up by HR and legal, and you will probably be handed a Cobra package in the next few days. So I would say, Stu, understand within the milieu that you're in, within the organization, within the culture, where those lines are, and play around with that. So if you've seen humor successfully used in the past there, colloquially, conversationally, at parties, at events, and there hasn't been a lot of pushback and people have enjoyed it across the different lines of the different people who are there, play around with it, but I would say be cognizant of it. Now, this is something that has always been trouble within corporate and organizational settings because everyone's so worried about getting sued.
Yeah.
And then you and I have talked about this a ton, and this is just ultimately how it is. So I would say stay within the parameters that won't get you fired, sued, written up, but within those parameters, have some fun. Have some fun, exchange memes, exchange some laughs, and then see if you can expand the Overton window of comedy just a little bit in your organization.
The joy that comes out of absurdity is gold, and it's universal. The programmer who was born in Bangalore will get that as much as the well-heeled Wharton grad who is several layers up in the food chain in the organization. And I'm guessing that is something that working with your clients you've tapped into.
Oh yeah, and we found that the best way to lift an organization's morale through humor that I've worked with over the past 12 years is honoring people. So if you actually lead with a place of love, that's where you can unlock the best humor. So it doesn't look like it's attacking. So for instance, there's one client I'm working on right now in California, a couple of folks who are retiring, and people are getting together to deliver a retirement roast for them. And the roast is going to be great because they're going to be joking about all the stuff they've done in the office, stuff they've done out of the office.
Yeah.
Not all the stuff done out of the office. Once again, the lawyers are always just sniffing around like they're just waiting, like vultures circling the carcass. But if you can take that step back and say, we're leading from a place of love and reverence and respect for the people we work with, the industry we work with, the clients we work with, the organization we're in. And then from there you can inject the humor. So think about love as that piece of meat and humor as that seasoning you're putting on it. If you're just going to drink a bottle of Creole seasoning, my friend, you're going to have a rough night. But I've seen it in Louisiana, would not recommend. But if you have a beautiful, beautiful cut of marble ribeye and you just put a little bit of that Cajun seasoning, let me tell you something. That is a phenomenal dinner you're going to have. So lead with the meat, add the seasoning. That's where the good stuff is.
Thank you, Chef Prudhomme. That's well stated. I want to get to some Zen, if you will, because I don't think we have enough Zen practice. We are focused on where we're at now, where we're going, rather than the here and now. How do you... Because I feel like that's the secret sauce right there. What is it about this moment that we're in right now, Jeff? You and I are talking, and we're having fun, we're exchanging ideas, and we're batting down the old tropes about the workplace and the rampant negativity that we have around us. What Zen-based lesson do you think there is that we all can take through our daily experience?
Come into gratitude for the now and who you are, where you're with, what you're all about. What am I grateful for right now besides having this awesome conversation with you, Dan, besides having this awesome conversation with all these folks who are here in the comments who I can't see because my StreamYard's all jacked up. But I'm grateful for the fact that you told me to wear something festive today, and I wore a shirt that makes me feel like a villain from Superman 2. I feel great about that. I'm grateful for that. I'm happy about that. I wake up every day, and the first question I ask myself when I wake up, besides did I oversleep, which is often a yes, is how deliriously joyful can I be today? And not happy. I think happiness it's overrated. I'm talking delirious joy. Ask yourself how you can be deliriously joyful. And that means think about a person who looks around and everything is interesting to them. The way a kid looks around and everything's fascinating, and you want to eat everything and throw everything and you want to immerse in everything. And if you start looking for it, you'll find it. Instead of this crap over here and I got to do this today and this and that, and then that will get you into this pit. It's hard to get out of. But if you just come at it from a place of delirious joy, watch where the magic is.
You took me back in time a long, long time ago to the year that the Mets won the World Series, 86. And for some reason, the earworm that I had in my head then, and I still do every once in a while. So Paul Simon produced an album called Graceland. It is one of the greatest rock albums ever created. It's pure genius. I'm not going to get into the reason why, but the earworm on that album has a song with the lyrics, "These are the days of miracle and wonder." And that to me is where we're at right now. These are the days of miracle and wonder. Yeah, we're always going to have money stresses. We're not always going to get along with our loved ones. We're certainly not going to see eye to eye with the people that we share the Long Island Railway train car with. But we have this experience together to be in awe of a world unfolding with innovation and love. So these are the days of miracle and wonder, Jeff.
Think about the conversation we're having right now.
Oh, do I have to?
You do have to. I'm sorry. This is I'm painting you in a corner here, pal.
Yeah.
This is, and all the conversations that are happening the world over. Think about the people, if you're watching this, if you have connections on LinkedIn across the pond, and the interaction you can have with them for free every single day. When a long distance phone call to Michigan back in the day was a mortgage payment, that you can have a conversation for free with somebody in Australia today.
And you mentioned that these are the days of the miracle and wonder. And the next line is, this is a long distance call. We don't have long distance calling anymore. It's wherever you want to be. You can get on Zoom, you can get on FaceTime and whatever. And it's, costs you no cash money. Jeff, we've run out of time. And we're at the point in the show where we ask our guests, what's your work fit? You actually answered this question for me before. And what I want you to do is listen to what you said and then reflect on it and come back at the other side and tell me if anything's changed. Okay?
All right.
Here we go. We've now come to the time where I get to ask you, what's your work fit? What attribute, condition, experience, place, or state of mind makes work a wonderful part of your day, doing many wonderful, meaningful things, and not just the all-consuming time suck of a day? What's your work fit, Jeff?
My work fit is a client who just absolutely loves life. That's my work fit. If I get a call from an EA saying, listen, we have a retiring CEO in October. We want to do a big roast. We want your team to write it for us. We absolutely love this human being, and we want to show them how much we love them through this absolutely gut-bustingly hilarious roast that we want you guys to write. That is my work fit. That is my professional true north. It's what lights me up like a Christmas tree, man. Love it.
Well,
I'll tell you, my work fit was getting better lighting than I had for that interview. So thank God for that. Man, that was rough.
So you're right.
In the comments say anything. Actually, no, you did, and I appreciate it. But my work fit, honestly, now is, I'm in a transition phase right now. So this is an exciting place for me. My work fit, as you can see underneath my name, Emperor the Daily Stuffing. This is a new satire publication that I'm going to be launching in April. And I'm really excited about it. This is going to be all my satire collated into one place. We're going to have a lot of guest writers. We're going to grow the empire. The idea is to remind the world that it's okay to laugh again. And other satire sites have ultimately become propaganda arms for their own respective camps. We're not doing that. We're taking it to a different level. This is going to be ridiculous. It's going to be joyful. It's going to be fun. And that's my work fit, is to bring irreverent joy to the world every single day. That's what it's all about, baby. That's it.
God, I love that. You really are like the Zorba the Greek of LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Well, no, Zorba was like that. He like look for the joy in every experience. If you are not currently following Jeff on LinkedIn, that's your homework assignment, to go find him, and better yet, seek him out and have a conversation. His posts are laugh out loud funny, and they are oftentimes for me the best part of LinkedIn in my daily experience. So do check Jeff out. Where else can people find you, Jeff?
Well, put a bookmark in thedailystuffing.com. It's going to be launching in the next few weeks. But in the meantime, follow me on LinkedIn. You'll get all the updates for it. And if you want to be part of our daily email list, you're going to get a morning shot of free joyful irreverence every single day. So as soon as you get up, you check that phone. I know you're doing it. It's okay. We all do. As soon as you check that phone, the first thing you're going to see is something joyfully irreverent to set your day right. So instead of doom scrolling and getting down a path of anxiety, you're going to be joy scrolling and getting down a path of ridiculousness. Reconnect your inner child. Have an amazing day every single day.
And go to that good place.
Go to that good place.
Go. Just get up on that long conference table and find your bliss.
She looks happy. I want to befriend her.
I do too, if she existed. Another AI rendering. Jeff, this has been a blast. I love you, man. You're like my crazy little brother, and I love every interaction I have with you. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Right back at you, Dan. You keep doing what you're doing, man. You are a blessing, my friend.
Let's get you back on when the bird is stuffed.
Let's do it.
Okay. We've now come to the time where I get to press the wrong button. See you, Jeff. We've now